Hello, everybody. Fiona Lukey's here, the 18th of March, 2022. A huge welcome to all of you. I know that I've got a lot of questions today, so I'm not going to be able to get through all of them, but I will do my absolute best to answer any questions that you have. These Friday lives are really very much free-flowing Q&A things, so I leave it up to you guys to send your questions in, and I will respond wherever possible. Like I said, I've got quite a few questions, so I probably won't get through all of them today, but I will do my absolute very, very, very best. Tuned in, first of all, please feel free to say hi so I know that everyone can hear me okay, and it's appreciated if you do. Okay, so I'm going to start reading these questions to get straight into it. And the biggest problem I see in relation, the person is often mirroring where you are at internally. Please don't hear this as if I'm victim blaming. People get up, but I am encouraging you, right? It's a big part of what I teach, and I it's a big conversation I have over a long period of time, right? That you have to have from, and you have to understand your own muscle of knowing where to look for the answer. And well, the other person's not communicating enough. They're not enough about why. There's always a very good reason, generally speaking. I know there are extreme cases, okay? So don't go extreme or justified. We feel self-righteous. No, it is dangerous when you feel to be better, but you aren't being that way yourself. And I mean consistently over a period of time, just being nice one up. And I don't mean being left with. And as I keep saying, this is people's biggest flavor when the next relationship hits that point where people are in a low mood and struggling, and they just bring the same flavor and they keep doing the same thing. So it's very, 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 I can't emphasize this enough, important that you are aware of your flavor. And I'm telling you, I would say this pretty much is 100% of the case. With every person that either does my relatable program or works with me one-on-one, they have no idea of their flavor, none. And they can't see it. And you can't change anything until you see it, right? And people will tell me, and I've had this many times, oh, but I'm calm and I'm this and I'm that. And then they start learning the understanding that I teach, and all of a sudden they realize, oh, okay, I'm not as calm as I thought I was. Oh, I'm not as chilled out as I thought I was. Oh, I actually am really critical. My God, I'm a lot more controlling than I had any idea of. And so they start seeing things in a completely different way, and then they start getting an experience of how the other person is experiencing them. Because, you know, so many people get stuck with how they are experiencing the other person. They don't understand how the other person is experiencing them. And that's where you got to start every single time. The biggest mistake I see in relationship, you know, whether it be in therapy or any of those kinds of things, is people are focusing on the problem first, okay, instead of building goodwill, understanding their own flavor, and then through the lens of that, looking at the problem. There is no point looking at a problem if you don't have those things in place. Absolutely pointless. You won't get anywhere. So this is very, very, very important. So we can often blame someone and say, well, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. But until you've looked at the things I just talked about, you don't really know what that relationship is capable of. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm going to say. Now, in response to, hey, Ali, nice to see you. Thanks for saying hi. You're in New Zealand. Love our Kiwi neighbours. Oh, you're a big fan. Oh, thank you. That's very kind, Ali. I appreciate you saying that. I will answer your question about goodwill in a moment, Dwayne. I have seen it. So getting back to this lady's question, this is where I would say to you, how do I know if this relationship is worth it? And this very much depends on where you're at within yourself and what you want to create and achieve here. Okay, and everyone's going to have a very different idea of that. So without really knowing what that is, and that is finding out if you and I were talking, without knowing exactly what. If someone's truly checked out, truly checked out, then there's not a lot you can do. Now, in saying that, sometimes someone can seem like they're checked out, but they're just shut down. and they would like the relationship to work, but they can't see how it's possible, so they give up and they shut down and they move into resignation. Okay, and so I have found working with people, when people have the understanding that I teach, and it's very important, okay, that you understand how we work as human beings, and there's often a lot of unlearning people need to go through in order to truly embrace what I'm talking about, okay, because we're taught kind of the opposite to what I'm referring to here. But putting that to one side, it's very important that if you're really wanting to see what the relationship is capable of, that you bring goodwill for a period of time with no agenda. Okay? No agenda. Now, the problem most people fall into, and I know they don't mean to, the problem most people fall into, hey, Leanne, hi, thanks for saying hi. I really appreciate it. Nice to see you. The problem I see people falling into, and this may help with your question, Jay, which I saw earlier, is we bring goodwill but with an agenda. Okay? And when we bring goodwill with an agenda, or we try hard with an agenda, there is a finite period of time that we are able to do that for, because we have an agenda. And if our agenda isn't getting met, this is where the justification comes in. We will then justify to ourselves, well, I've tried enough, I've done enough, I've done this enough, stuff you, right? That's what happens, because you have an agenda. And your agenda is in the background. And the agenda is what flavors your interaction. It truly, truly does. I've just come back from my daughter has a horse, and she's got a dressage competition coming up, and I took her there this morning because she's got a day off school to spend some time with her horse, and her horse was playing up, and it's so interesting to see. She said, "I know why she's playing up, Mum, because I keep thinking she's going to bolt. It's in my mind that she's going to bolt, that she's going to take off on me, and because that's on my mind, I know that I'm bringing that through my energy into the horse." And what my daughter's been taught, which I think is beautiful and a wonderful thing, and the reason I'm sharing it, and I think something we all need to embrace, is that the horse is always a reflection of her. Okay? So if there's a problem with the horse, the first place she has to look is herself first. This is something people do not know how to do, and they don't feel like they should do, right? But I'm telling you, when you have the humility and the grace to do that, it is life-changing. Life-changing for you, because you feel incredibly empowered and you feel proud of yourself. The amount of people that, after I've been working with them, I've done my program, whatever, they have the understanding. They go, I'm so proud of myself, Fiona. I showed up so differently. So what happens? They feel good. They're in a good feeling. And how do you think that then carries out to everything around them? Like, you've got to understand, I was actually saying this with a client this morning. You are way more powerful than you understand. People don't know this. They live as though they are at the mercy of something else, somebody else, or a situation, right? And so then they give their power away all the time, without realizing it, okay? And I say this, I'm not blaming anyone, and I'm not judging anyone, and I am absolutely not victim blaming here. So if you're thinking that's what I'm saying, please put that to one side. I'm absolutely not saying that. I'm teaching you something very, very, very important. And this is a muscle that most people don't have. And you must build this, right? Just like my daughter is building a muscle of checking where she's at first energetically before she corrects her horse. Now, I know that that is the most amazing life skill, and that will take her places she can't imagine as she grows older, because she knows that. 99% of the population do not know this, and this is why they struggle. Truly. I didn't know it, okay? I didn't know it. So I'm putting myself in that category here, okay? I did not know it. And, for those of you who are familiar with my work or my story, I was a very angry, judgmental, resentment-fueled person. And I just projected that everywhere. Now, I couldn't see it because I felt justified. And I was just looking in the wrong direction for the answer. Okay? So I'm answering about 3 questions in one here for those of you who are really listening to me, okay? So if you're listening, I'm answering about 3 questions in one here. So if you have a question, listen to this again after I'm finished. So what I would say to this lady who sent this in to me, yes, absolutely, you've got to do your own stuff first, and then you bring goodwill, okay? The only way we can bring goodwill is, right? And that's another thing that people struggle with. And you don't just get over yourself once or twice. You have to get over yourself again and again and again, right? But it's a very good thing. People see that as a weakness. People see that as diminishing themselves. No, no, no. Getting over yourself equals expansion. You expand exponentially as a person, spiritually, emotionally, in so many ways. I can't even put it into words. It's incredibly empowering. Okay. So, and again, I could not get over myself, incapable of it. I can now, and I'm so unbelievably grateful because I get to show up in the world the way I really want to, where I'm proud of me. Okay. Where I'm proud of myself, where I feel good about how I'm showing up. Before, I was just drowning in shame because I would yell and I would say nasty things, and I would go there, very quickly, and I would just then spend hours beating myself up. My head was going at a million miles an hour, and that infected all of my relationships. And whether you're aware of it or not, you all do it. Everybody does it. But if you can't see it and then you blame the other person, then it's really hard to create any change. Okay. And this is why things like compatibility, we're just too different, we're incompatible, we're this, we're that. No, 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 no. That's not why relationships break down. They become the fall guy for that when goodwill is low. Have you not noticed when goodwill is high, people don't care about their differences, right? They only care about them when goodwill is low. Interesting. So when goodwill is low, people fault find. When goodwill is high, they do not. I've seen this in businesses that I've worked in. And so where productivity has gone up, where they've made more money because staff are not fault finding because there's goodwill. They're looking for solutions and they get on with it. But when we don't feel good, that's what we do as human beings. And everybody does it, male, female, everybody does it. Just one of those things that is the sameness in people that I see all the time. Okay. So people fault find when they don't feel good. And so, we bring out the worst in each other. So the only way you truly know what a relationship is capable of is when you're bringing out the best in each other and you have built up a decent amount of goodwill, right? But, obviously by the time people come to me, goodwill is low and they don't realize that they are eroding it moment by moment by moment. And even though they might be trying really hard, they're just looking in the wrong direction for the answer and they have no awareness of what they're bringing to the table. Okay. And they feel justified and people just get super lost. Okay. And again, I don't say this from a place of blame or fault. Please don't hear it that way. I'm trying to show you what's possible because people get very caught up in limits around relationships and rules and all sorts of things. Okay. And until you can see through those things, you will just do the same thing again and again and again and again and again and again and again. This is what I see with people. Except they're on their third marriage or 10th relationship or whatever, because they think it's the other person. And again, I am not victim blaming. And yes, there are some people that should not be in relationship with each other. I get that. But I'm talking about generally here. So don't go to extremes. People love to but me. Yeah, but what about this? What about that? And go to some extreme place, right? I'm just talking generally here. Okay. So just stay with me around that. If you're butting and going to an extreme, stop doing that. Okay, because you're not allowing yourself to hear what I'm saying. I've been doing this for a very, very long time, and I have an incredibly high success rate. I don't say this to big note myself, but to let you know I know what I'm talking about. Okay. Okay. So getting back to this question. First and foremost, yes, you need to work on yourself. Yes, you need to bring goodwill. And then if that brings no change, then you have to make a decision. But either way, there is no downside to that, because when you learn this and when you bring a different flavor to the table, it only enhances things. It doesn't damage them. There's no downside to what I'm saying, because what you learn and grow from, you will take to your next relationship or in your parenting or elsewhere. Okay. And you start to get a bigger sense of what you're actually capable of and what's possible for you, which I think a lot of people limit themselves and have no idea what they're capable of. I mean, the amount of people that will come to me and say, oh, I'm not really good with feelings. I'm not really good with my emotions. I'm not a good communicator. I don't like conflict. I mean, all of that is just BS, all right? It's just something you've bought into for a very long time and built up a whole heap of evidence to support. And until you can see through that, you'll just keep being limited by that again and again and again. Oh, yeah, well, I'm not good at conflict. Oh, but I'm right. And then you'll keep attracting the same type of situation into your life because honestly, we are here to either evolve or repeat. Okay. And so, you keep getting the same lessons until you actually see what it is that you need to learn and grow around. It's just how things work. It's not personal, although I get that it feels very, very, very personal. Okay. Now, the other thing I would say to this lady, and again, I'm speaking to a number of you who've sent me in questions here. Right? Your relationship with your own wisdom is very, 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 very important. Now, before I had this understanding in my life, my relationship with my own wisdom was non-existent. It was very poor. Now it is something I value highly. And so my wisdom guides me through many things where my intellectual ego mind wants to run away from or get angry about or judge or limit me in some way. Okay. And so I would be saying to you, you will know when it's time to move on. And in many times in my life, get quiet and patient and wait for relationship with it these days. I consider it one of my greatest relationships in my life, most precious things. And so I take care of it and I make sure that I listen. Busy-minded, another thing that people have no awareness around, how busy-minded you are, right? And we are so busy-minded, okay? Way more than people have any understanding of. And so again, that's another thing that people start to see in themselves is they realize how busy-minded they are. Now, when you're going really, really fast in your mind, you just aren't seeing things clearly. You do not have what I call clarity of mind. Now, clarity of mind comes when you have a great connection with wisdom, when you have slowed down, when you are expansive in your thinking, when you know how to get over yourself, all of these things I'm talking about. You get clarity of mind and you start to know when your mind is clear and when it is not, and you know how to navigate that. And so people start navigating themselves very differently. Now, when you navigate yourself differently, guess what happens? Your relationships change because people start navigating you differently. This is just how it works, guys, right? But we're not taught this enough. We're taught, let's focus on the problem. You're not meeting my needs. You're not doing enough. See how it's this. That is not what creates long-term sustainable change. There's no accountability there. People aren't looking in the right direction. And people just get caught up in justification, defensiveness, adversarialness, and goodwill just goes straight down the drain. And then from there, people give up. It's too hard. I'm walking away. So I do see a lot of relationships breaking down because people just say, oh, it's too hard. I don't know what to do. It's not necessarily what they want, but they go, it's too hard. And then they look at all of the differences and go, oh, it's our differences. It's like, it's not your differences. Do you know how many people come to me and how many people I know who are so different and doing great? Okay. It's not your differences, guys. I promise you. It's really not. I've had people come to me who are married to their perfect match. Oh, we've got so much in common. We think the same. We do this, we do that. And they're like, how come this person's driving me crazy? Because it's not about how much you have in common either. True story. I know that can be triggering for people to hear, but believe me, it's true. So I hope that helps with your question. Okay, so I've got another question here. Hi, Fiona. I've started tuning into your Friday sessions and really enjoy them. Thank you. Your approach is refreshing and helpful. Could you please respond to my question? My husband and I have been married for over 40 years and have drifted apart during that time. We have polarizing points of view on so many matters, which is exacerbated by his black and white and very old-fashioned thinking. aka 1950s views and depression. He has very little in life and shows no interest in my interests. I'm at my wit's end as I feel like I'm being sucked into a vortex that is really getting me down. Looking forward to your thoughts on the matter. Okay. Great question. Hi, Andrea. I think that's Andrea, isn't it? Mazzilli, Dree L. Mazzilli. I think you're Andrea from memory. Hi, Andrea. Thanks for saying hi. Yep, evolve or repeat. Absolutely, Dwayne. It's a keeper. It's very, very important when you see it. I talk about this a lot in Relatable, a lot. Hi, Chris. Nice to see you. So in regards to this question, is a couple of things, all right? And I want to reiterate to all of you, and a lot of you who don't know me very well, but people who know me well, know that the space I'm coming from is a space of genuineness, kindness, love, and respect. And sometimes I will be direct, but it is not because I'm judging you in any way, shape, or form. We are all humans and we're all a bit flawed and we all have frailties, and you just got to know how to navigate them. I have plenty of my own frailties. You'd only have to speak to my kids and my husband to tell you that, right? I am no perfect human. But then again, I'm not trying to be. So I guess the first thing I would say is, I understand why you're at your wit's end. And my first question to you would be, what is your relationship like with your wisdom? Okay, what's your relationship like with your wisdom? To the lady who's just asked me this question, what is your relationship like with your wisdom? Because it's going to be tapping you on the shoulder right now. And are you listening? That would be my first question back to you about this. Number two, when it comes to things like this, okay, you really have two options. Number one is that you are okay with what is, and this is the biggest thing that people struggle with, being okay with what is. Biggest thing that people struggle with. People are constantly in resistance to what is, which causes a massive amount of suffering, okay? So you either are okay with what is, and I mean genuinely not settling and suffering through it. That's not being okay with what is, right? That's not what being okay with what is at all. That's not even close. You are okay with what is, and you have a sense of freedom around that, or you choose something else. Okay. But when we keep resisting, that is when we feel like we're being sucked into a vortex. Now, it is possible to be okay with what is if that is what you want. I'm not saying there's no shoulds in what I'm saying. Please don't hear that as a should. Okay. But it is possible to be okay with what is and genuinely be okay with that. Right. Again, this is where the understanding that I teach is very important, because that's the avenue for that. All right. But if not, if wisdom is telling you something else and you're tuned in, then I'd be saying to you, how come you're not listening? Okay. So there's a few things for you to consider. And for anyone listening to this who's in a similar situation, these are the things that you need to take on board. Right? What is your relationship like with your own wisdom? When was the last time you tuned into it? And do you know the difference? Very important, because there's a big difference between your ego, mind, and wisdom. Massive, 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 massive. Okay. And they come from a different place and they bring a different message. But they are, you got to understand, as a human, we are operating via both of those places all the time, whether we're aware of it or not. Okay. So tuning into wisdom is very, 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 very important. Very. If you want to achieve a sense of fulfillment in your life, you cannot do it if you don't have a great relationship with your own wisdom. You can't. You can't do it if you're only tuned into your intellectual mind. It's just not possible, okay? Because your intellectual mind has a lot of rules and a lot of judgments and a lot of shoulds. And it will convince you that the color green is orange. It really will. So you got to know how to navigate those two aspects. And everybody has them. Everybody, okay? Again, another thing that's very common amongst human beings. I talk a lot about the fact that we're all the same. People get very upset with me when I make that statement. We may express ourselves differently, but there is way more sameness between people than anything else, okay? Once you see the sameness, people calm down. They really do. It's quite phenomenal. Okay, yeah, Andrea, that's you. Cool, awesome. Thanks for clarifying that. So I'd be those. That's my response to this lady's question, and I'm not going to put anyone's name. I'm not going to mention names just to respect people's privacy, unless you tell me that you're happy for me to mention your name. Okay. Now, I know that there were a couple of other questions under the post that I don't know if my assistants had time to, hang on, I'm just bear with me, guys. Let me know if what I'm saying is resonating with you. I'd love some feedback around what I'm saying. What are you hearing? What are you getting from what I'm sharing? I would love some feedback. That would be really, really helpful. Great show tonight. Okay, thanks, Dwayne. I'm laughing because I don't think of myself as a show, but okay, could be. Yeah, why not? Could be I don't know, maybe I should come up with some cool name for this. Okay. I'm just going into my page and checking the post and the questions. Sorry, guys. Maybe I should come up with some. Hang on. Whoops. I just saw myself. Oh, that's so weird. Anyone else have any feedback for me around what I've said so far? Is this helpful to you? Does it make sense? Okay, here we go. All right, here's a couple of. All right. Okay, so Jay, okay, cool. I was just about to ask you. You've said it for me. I was just checking that I've actually responded to your question. I resonate with don't bring goodwill with an agenda. Perfect. Thank you. It's very, very, very important. Now, it is possible, okay, for anybody to not have an agenda. Okay, absolutely possible for any human being on the planet to not have an agenda. You just got to understand how things work. Okay, and you've got to know the difference between having an agenda and not having one for you to even understand that, right? But most people have an agenda, and when they feel that their agenda isn't being met, then they'll go into justification. Sally, I think I've answered your question in amongst what I was talking about earlier. So, okay, all good, which is good because we are at 33 minutes and I have to finish this live very, very shortly. All right, so I'm just going to check in. Does anyone else have a question or a comment or anything else that I can help them with whilst I'm here? And whilst I'm waiting to see if anyone else has anything before we finish up. When it comes to goodwill, okay, goodwill is something that you generate within you, okay? Someone else doesn't generate it for you. Goodwill is self-generated, right? It's self-generated. We are so used to looking out here and waiting for something to change out here. You have to bring it. And goodwill is a good feeling, right? A feeling of warmth towards another person. A feeling of warmth towards life. It's a good feeling. I don't mean happy and excited and over the top, but I mean you are in a good feeling and you bring that, okay, to your life, to the people in it. Now, too many people think that they don't have to if someone is not behaving the way that they want them to. That's not how it works. And you're really misguided, innocently so. It's not your fault if you're waiting for that. You will never, nothing will change. This is what I mean by people seeing how powerful they are, right? You see that first, and then you have a lot more influence over things out here, okay? Now, combine that with a great relationship with wisdom. Very important. Very, very, very important. It's one of my most precious, precious things in my life, really. Then you can navigate anything with ease. Hence why when people have this understanding, they start navigating problems differently. They start navigating work differently, their kids differently, in-laws differently. Like in so many different ways, their well-being goes up because they're coming less from a place of fear and they're coming from a completely different space. People, I wish I could, and again, it's something you have to experience. I wish people understood how much more is on offer in terms of how you can feel. People don't know this. People operate in such a low level of feeling. They really do. And again, I don't say that it is anyone's fault, but we do. We just don't know what's possible. And when you start to tap into that, you just want more of that. People say this to me all the time. Oh my God, Fiona, now I know how good I can feel. Now I understand this stuff. I got to do some of the stuff that used to make sense to me. And I'm like, no, not interested. It no longer becomes compelling. It no longer makes sense. Now, surely that's an easier way to create change than sitting down when you both feel terrible, you're both resentful, you're both frustrated, you're both stuck, and go, let's talk about our problems. Like, that makes no sense. But this is what people do all the time. Anyway, guys, I have to go. I have a client waiting for me, but I truly hope this was helpful. If you want to know more about how to have this understanding in your life and literally live from this place, then I will put the link to Relatable below. This is where I teach this step by step. Even if you were a private client of mine, you would be doing Relatable, okay? Everybody who works with me does Relatable, okay? As well as sessions with me. But you can just do Relatable on its own. So that is a great, great, great place to start, all right? Really, just start there. It's, I can't express to you enough how many people are blown away by what they learn in that program. That's so different to anything else. Okay, I'll leave it with you. Thank you so much for being here. If you have a question, send it to me, hello@fionalukis.com.au, and I will see you here next Friday. Take care, everyone. Ciao.